Has the pandemic permanently changed last mile delivery? Well, joining us today to speak about that, Khaled Naim, CEO and co-founder of Onfleet. Khaled, it's good to see you once again. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Well, I guess the title that we just gave kind of sums up that question right now. We do know there have been changes brought to the last mile delivery world because of the pandemic. Let's talk about what those might be, and then let's talk about how permanent those changes will be. What do you say?
Sure.
What's going on?
Yeah, the pandemic has changed everything. What started 6 to 8 years ago with retailers shifting to e-commerce and same-day delivery was accelerated by, some would argue, up to 10 years. So what we expected to happen over the next 7 to 10 years happened in the matter of just 2 years. So these changes are rapid and immediate, and I think they will last for the foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. Retailers have to adapt and survive in this new environment. They can't rely on foot traffic anymore, and so we're seeing an incredibly rapid adoption of same-day delivery, e-commerce technologies, and I think this change is here to stay.
Well, but let's drill down into these changes. Now, there are always challenges to the supply chain, but the pandemic, of course, has really ratcheted things up. So let's talk more specifically about what the challenges, what the obstacles have been, to last mile by the pandemic. Walk us through that.
Sure, yeah, so from our perspective, so Onfleet is a last mile delivery management software product. So we help retailers basically provide same day delivery or on demand delivery to their customers. So from our perspective, what's changed is these retailers have no choice but to adapt last mile delivery. Whereas before they could rely on foot traffic in store, they haven't been able to do that anymore with the pandemic. Mm-hmm. People are ordering more and more online, and they have increasing expectations around what that experience looks like. So retailers have been hard pressed to evolve and evolve very quickly. So at the beginning of the pandemic, as lockdowns happened back in sort of March, April 2020, we saw an incredibly rapid influx of delivery businesses, retailers coming to Onfleet and saying, hey, we need a solution to enable this sort of experience. And that was tough because everyone was going after the same sort of driver supply as well. The driver shortages are real, and that's impacting everyone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're right, the consumer expectation has risen considerably, and that of course has had all kinds of effects throughout the supply chain. Let's talk about, not only have we seen an increase in orders, but the types of orders may have changed as well. Are we seeing smaller size orders, bigger size orders? What's the character of orders that we see these days because of the pandemic? How is that evolving?
Sure, yeah, so it's, I think, more of both, but we have been seeing a lot more smaller size orders as well. People placing orders on demand and expecting those deliveries to show up within an hour, if not half an hour. So that's a completely new sector that we didn't see a couple of years ago. It didn't even exist a couple of years ago, mm-hmm. But this kind of quick commerce space is a new one that we saw emerge during the pandemic, and I think is here to stay. Consumers expect to be able to order, something as small as a $50 basket size and have it show up same day.
So if you're in that fulfillment delivery continuum there, how do you match those expectations with the kind of pressure that you see with the types of orders that are being made? How do you deal with that?
A lot of technology. So the technology that is enabling this sort of experience for the end consumer includes Onfleet, so routing and dispatching, real-time tracking, enabling customer-facing communications, and sort of we provide that kind of infrastructure. So we're sort of the backbone of these retailers' last mile operations. Yeah. And that's a big part of it. It's the technology and it's the driver supply, right? So how do you staff up a fleet of drivers? How do you train them and onboard them to provide that kind of experience? Or do you work with third parties, and how do you sort of rely on those third parties to provide that experience?
I want to talk to you about so-called quick commerce and instant delivery, if you will. What do you think about that?
So yeah, we've never seen anything quite like it. Since we started Onfleet, we haven't seen a segment or a sub-segment of an existing industry explode so rapidly. So, just a year ago, we saw our very first quick commerce companies. Today, we power tens of thousands of quick commerce deliveries every single day. And these are for, dozens of companies all around the world. And obviously, there's a question around sustainability, and we can get into that a little bit.
Well, that's a big question. Is it sustainable?
That is certainly a question. I think one thing is clear, that the consumer demand is there. So we haven't seen such a rapid adoption of a new kind of subsegment of an industry since we started the company. And now, given that this demand is clearly there, these businesses have raised billions of venture funding. The question now is, how sustainable are these operations? And I think it's still early to say, but I would venture to say that with enough density and automation, these businesses are sustainable and they can extract a margin. It's still early. They're still all very focused on growth and kind of market share. But I think at some point in the future, we'll have a lot more consolidation. We'll see a lot more density of these deliveries and automation in the micro-fulfillment centers, which will allow for margin extraction at some point in the future.
You and I are speaking at the Manifest conference in the early part of 2022. Looking toward, throughout the year, what do you see taking place? What kind of evolution do you see in the world of last mile delivery?
I see a lot happening this year and next year. I think, the changes that started because of the pandemic are going to continue. They're going to continue to evolve in interesting ways. I think consumer expectations have changed forever. But I think we'll see a lot of interesting technology around sustainability. Clean tech, I think, is a big hot topic now in the last mile. So, how do we make these deliveries greener and cut down on carbon emissions? So I think we'll see that, which is a great thing in my opinion. And I think we'll see a lot more in the autonomous space and drones. And I'm an optimist, so I've been talking about this for the last few years, but I do think that this year we'll start to see more, at least sidewalk robots and some sort of smaller vehicles on the roads doing these last mile deliveries.
Very optimistic. We had very, very exciting stuff right there. Listen, Khaled, I know you're busy here at the conference, but you found time to speak with us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Russell. Thanks for having me.
That's Khaled Naim, Onfleet, speaking with us today about exciting developments going on in last mile delivery. Thanks for watching.